Hello everybody! So here is Linda Delir again, and I'm here to talk to you about ENFJ versus ESFJ. This video has been kindly requested to me, so I'm going to proceed and talk about this particular split. And we're talking about the two extroverted feeling dominant types. ENFJ, FE, NI, SE, TI, ESFJ, FE, SI, NE, TI. First things first, what do they have in common? They have in common that they are ostracized. This is the first thing that I'm going to say about this. Problem that there is out there is a lot of bias towards extrovert feeling. People believe that extrovert feeling types are manipulative, and that's not true. Not about these two types anyway, because what MBTI actually says and what Socionics also says and what Kiersey also says, so they all agree on this fact, is that they have the ability to manipulate emotions. This doesn't mean being manipulative. Someone manipulative is a person that takes a situation and manipulates it into gaining something, into obtaining something, into getting an advantage from it. So it's based on personal benefit. Manipulation is based on personal benefit. In order to be manipulative, we have to set a very selfish goal and try with any means to reach that goal. So ENFJs and ESFJs lack the ability to be selfish. And that's because they are introvert feeling ignoring. So they basically completely and absolutely ignore their personal feelings and their personal needs. So an ENFJ or an ESFJ, a true ENFJ or a true ESFJ, is never ever going to be able to tell you what their emotional state is and what their personal needs are. And they completely lack the focus on their emotional needs. That's what ENFJs and ESFJs are made of. So it's impossible that someone that completely lacks the possibility, the ability to be selfish is going to become manipulative. They are good at manipulating external emotions. And manipulating external emotions means that if they see the external environment being gloomy or sad or negative in any possible way, the ENFJ and the ESFJ are going to intervene to change the emotional environment into a positive emotional environment. Now, parenthesis, if an ENFJ, well, no, I'm going to explain it another way before I make confusion. So another trait of extrovert feeling is that the extrovert feeling represents the ethical stance of the external environment. So basically, being FI ignoring these two types ignore their personal ethical stance on things. So they do not know what their ethical position in specific circumstances is. In all circumstances. The ignoring function in socionics is a subconscious function. That's why I keep talking about not being aware, because it's a subconscious function. And it requires a lot of work to actually let something that is subconscious come to surface. And it requires intensive work. So, ENFJs and ESFJs represent the ethical stance of the external environment. So I'm going to go political for a moment, but not talk about politics. If an ENFJ or an ESFJ are in a communist environment, for example, their ethical stances and their ethical reactions or actions are going to be dictated by the communist ethical ideals. If we take the same two persons, the same ESFJ and the same ENFJ that have lived half of their lives in this communist environment, and we place them into a capitalistic environment, The ENFJ and the ESFJ are going to completely forget the previous input and the previous imprinting of communism, and they're going to switch onto capitalistic ethical stances. And we're still talking about ethical stances. I'm pointing out this particular thing about it being an ethical stance because they are both extrovert thinking role function. So it means that they are nonconformists and they tend to go against the flow. They do not align to what everybody thinks. They do not align to what everybody does. That's because the attitude of aligning to public opinion often goes against, well, 99.99999% of the times, aligning to the public opinion goes against the interests of extrovert feeling. Also because you have to consider that public opinion is a general thing. Well, the two functions basically work on the same plane, and they both pick from people around. One goes for the thinking side and ignores extrovert feeling, so basically the emotional and the ethical stance, and that's extrovert thinking, whereas the other one ignores the general logic and accepts instead the emotional and ethical stance. So this is extrovert feeling in these two types, and it works that way again because of the tandem of extrovert feeling dominant and introvert feeling ignoring. So basically, closing one's eyes on a personal, emotional situation and the personal ethical stances. What else do they have in common? They are both introvert thinking inferior. Being introvert thinking inferior means that both of this type have a tendency to have difficulties taking decisions. So they basically need someone helping them to narrow down the gazillions of possibilities that their minds are able to conceive via extroverted feeling. Extrovert feeling is an extremely scattered function, and that's because it's basically absorbing everything, every emotion that the external environment produces. The extrovert feeling type is going to gather within themselves, and these two types both lack the mental organization to categorize all of these emotions that they keep loading within themselves. So they tend to be extremely scattered types. In tandem with being extrovert thinking inferior, we have extrovert thinking role function. And extrovert thinking role function in socionics means that both types have this tendency to feel like they are a little bit incompetent, that they are unintelligent. They feel like they admire people with the ability to gather gazillions of information and to use facts. They tend to use facts in a very home-oriented way. Like if they present a fact, if an ENFJ or an ESFJ present you a fact, it's going to be something from their private life, similar to INFJs, but INFJs are even more rudimental, or even more basic in the use of extrovert thinking. But ENFJs and ESFJs are going to have the sprint to actually pull out examples or facts from their personal lives and from everyday life for the simple reason that such facts cannot be refuted. So they present this information because that backs up their extrovert feeling and their idea of not personal, their idea of whatever is going on. So that's another thing about ENFJs and ESFJs, and these are traits that the two types have in common. What are the differences? ESFJs are SI auxiliary, and ENFJs are NI auxiliaries. So it means that the goals of an ESFJ's exterior feeling are focused on the here and now. So they have zero focus on the future. They are thinking here and now. So if an ESFJ is in an environment in which there is a negative emotional situation, and they decide to change the emotional situation, they're not going to think about the consequences of their actions. They completely lack the ability to even think of the possibility that there could be consequences to their behavior. That's because they are introverted, intuition, vulnerable. So it means that their choices are going to be random. We said that extrovert feeling is a very scattered function. So they are basically kaleidoscopes of emotions. They gather the emotion from the external environment, and then they use introvert sensing to transmit or these emotions into whatever they want the emotional environment externally to become right now. So basically, if an ESFJ finds themselves in an environment in which someone is mistreating, like the boss of the company is mistreating one of the co-workers, and the ESFJ considers that injustice unbearable, the ESFJ can explode in the boss's face and telling everything that goes through the ESFJ's mind to protect the co-worker, and they will not think of the possibility of being fired themselves. That's an ESFJ. The ENFJ, on the other hand, is instead introverted intuition auxiliary. So it means that they have the focus on consequences, and they have the focus on the possible future outcome of their actions and the actions of people around them. So in the same situation in which the boss is yelling the shit out of this co-worker and is mistreating the co-worker, if the ENFJ considers it necessary to intervene because she considers it or he considers it an injustice, they're going to intervene in a mediative way. So they're going to put both themselves and the person being in a difficult position in a position not to be fired, not to be further mistreated, and they're going to try to calm down the situation and get the boss to understand what they're doing wrong. So their focus is going to be in the long run, in the long term. They're going to focus on saving the situation from every angle for everybody for everybody involved in the long run. So what can happen a lot of the time to an ENFJ, for example, is to be misinterpreted by the person they're protecting. A lot of the time, people being protected by an ENFJ can take it as the ENFJ either siding with the boss or trying to lecture them into how they should think, which is not the case. In such circumstances, the ENFJ is simply trying to come to the best possible solution for everybody. Other differences. An ENFJ is extroverted sensing tertiary, whereas the ESFJ is going to be extroverted intuition tertiary. This means that their hidden agenda, their secret wish, is for the ENFJ to be extroverted sensing and for the ESFJ to be extroverted intuition. So it means that the ENFJ is going to focus a lot on beauty, on strength, power, anything that revolves around extroverted sensing and what is here and now. So they use the here and now for their future forecastings, a little bit like the INFJ. But their main goal is to understand and make extroverted sensing part of themselves. Whereas the ESFJ has the same focus on extroverted intuition. So they basically focus on everything that could potentially be, but is not happening in the moment. So what an ESFJ is going to focus on is we could situations. So an ESFJ is going to talk a lot about we could do this, we could do that, we could be there, we could. That's the kind of focus the ESFJ has. But they do not care and they do not have the interest of actually enacting those things that they pull out of their extroverted intuition. Their extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing in these two types are extremely weak. So there are two-dimensional functions in socionics. It means that they are weak functions in which these two types would want to be good, but they cannot handle. ESFJs are introverted intuition vulnerables, like we said. ENFJs instead are introverted sensing vulnerable. So it means that they lack attention to details and they lack the ability to focus on details. They have zero memory, whereas ESFJs have a lot of memory. So ENFJs are weak at memory. They tend to not see details or of things around them. They have difficulties with relating to their own body. They can fall sick and not be aware of being sick or not know if it is important or not. One thing that I see ENFJs do a lot is fall sick and then wonder, should I go to work or not? And something that people around them often tell these ENFJs, sorry, is, well, if you have a 40 Celsius degrees flu, you probably should stay home. They have a lot of difficulties relaxing. The ENFJ has a lot of difficulties relaxing. It's a hyperactive type, and that's because of their introvert sensing vulnerable. Relaxation for this type is basically a taboo, something they do not understand the importance of. Whereas the ESFJ has this function in the creative position, so in the auxiliary position, and they are going to be extremely good at relaxing. They can create relaxing situations for others when they want to do that. So basically, they do not have the same focus of an ISFJ that constantly focuses on creating positive relaxation situations and comfort for others. The ESFJ does it only in certain circumstances, when the ESFJ feels that the other person needs relaxation or needs the person to feel comfortable. And they will only occasionally create this comfort and cozy situations. What else can I say about these two types? ENFJs are extrovert intuition demonstrative. It means that they do have the ability to create possibilities, generate possibilities, and generate and focus on what could potentially be. They do not consider it interesting. They do it only if it's related to something in the present situation or in the real world. So they create these possibilities only if there is a reason to create them, and if the exercise leads somewhere. ESFJs instead are extrovert sensing demonstrative, so it means that they do have the ability to be imposing, to be strong, and to focus on beauty. They consider it unimportant, and they do not even try to do that. They actually consider, they tend to make fun of people having this kind of focus. So as much as the ENFJ tends to make fun of people that focus too much on creating and generating possibilities. So this is everything I have. Last curiosity that I could say, the ESFJ's dual partner, meaning the perfect match for the ESFJ, is going to be the INTP, so basically an intuitive, creative type, whereas the dual partner of the ENFJ, meaning the perfect match for an ENFJ, is an ISTP, so basically a sensory creative type focused on power and all the realm of things that revolves around exterior sensing. So this is really everything I have about these two types. I hope it helped, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.